Trevor, I mean, the question here is there a responsibility, do you think, for Sheffield United to be that bit more flexible to allow their goalkeeper the chance to play for a top club in the Premier League?
No. Sheffield United needs to do what's best for Sheffield United. And for me, again, it just stinks the place out with Arsenal, what's gone on there. I'm not saying it's Edu, whether it's Arteta, but 18 months ago, 2 years ago, you've let an amazing goalkeeper that you've had in the academy and you've released him. After, by the way, him playing some first-team games and doing really well. Popular amongst the fans. Let him go to Villa. One of your rivals now, you've got to say, with Arsenal's positioning in the league. You've let him go to one of your rivals and all of a sudden you don't fancy Leno, or you need cover for Leno because you're not sure about Leno. I mean, the mistakes that are being made at Arsenal at the moment are ridiculous. But
I think Martinez wanted to go, though, didn't he?
Of course he wanted to go because he wasn't getting the opportunity, because he wasn't valued.
So what were Arsenal meant to do in a situation like that?
Well, back the right man. And they've not done that for me. I don't think Leno is as good a goalkeeper as Martinez. Plus, Martinez is one of their own because they developed him through the academy. But this is what I'm saying. Football clubs at times don't value the players that they bring through their own
conventional
academies.
wisdom, and I understand what you're saying, and I agree a lot with it. But conventional wisdom, my understanding of the transfer situation last week was the situation with Martinez. He asked for a lot more money, and Arsenal weren't prepared to pay it, and his wages. There were also an understanding that there was a desire to be the first-team goalkeeper, and they had chosen Leno, as had the predecessors. So this time last year, there wasn't a camp that definitively said that Martinez was a better goalkeeper than Leno. With the benefit of hindsight, with the season...
Well, he was, Simon.
Well, it wasn't, because...
Well, I was saying that when he got the run of games, whether it was 10 games...
You were voicing the wilderness.
I don't think so.
Because if you look at it and suggest that the general thinking... Now, we're looking at it now and go, well, Martinez has had a wonderful season at Aston Villa. He's now in the Argentinian side, and we now see what he was. And perhaps you're right, Arsenal should have seen that because they had it under their door. But a year, like a week in politics, is a long time. A year is a long time in football. So you look at it now and say Martinez has proven to be a rose amongst thorns and become a top draw player. But nobody said that a year ago. You might have said he's a good goalkeeper.
Yeah,
but
I did.
I remember you banging a drum for saying that's a really bad deal.
Martinez got in, Trevor, because Leno was injured.
Exactly, and sometimes that's how it plays out. Now, if Martinez does a good job, you've got a problem as a manager. You need to say, is Leno exactly what we need? Or Martinez, who we've developed ourselves, should we give him that uprise in wages? And should we back him and say, listen, Leno, Martinez.
But football clubs do it all the time, Trevor. We could all turn around and say, well, look at Chelsea. They let Salah go, they let De Bruyne go.
But this is what we're talking about now, Ramsdale, because they're not completely 100% sure about Leno.
Yeah, and that tells you something. And ultimately, form is temporary and class is permanent. So Leno's either a good goalkeeper or he's not. And ultimately, we look at David De Gea. I mean, you can turn around and say, Man United just gave him a new contract for $375,000 a week. And all of a sudden, David De Gea's out of favour and the other kid's in goal. And everyone thinks that he's the better goalkeeper. It's just the way that football moves. And now what they're going to try and do is get Ramsdale. To go to the original question, no. Why is it Sheffield United's responsibility to do anything for the player? The player signed a contract with Sheffield United. Guess what he was part of? The team that stunk out the Premier League. He was part of that. So he's gone down to the Championship. So he has to take his medicine. And if the medicine involves the fortune of him being able to be transferred back into the Premier League, it will be utterly and definitively on Sheffield United's terms.
And I'd be careful if I was Arsenal, because he's taken two teams down, or he's been part of two teams being relegated from the Premier League, Ramsdale. So...
Yeah,
I mean, is he a chance? Is he a chance?
Yeah, I mean, I think to get into the England setup tells you what level he's at, and also the fact that both of those teams were poor at the end.
Yeah,
Bournemouth.
Yeah, he didn't single-handedly.
Sheffield United were rubbish, weren't they? I mean, they got relegated because they were rubbish.
But the bottom line is it not good business? They bought him for 18. They could sell him for 30 more, or maybe that bit more. Yeah. Surely that equals.
Of course it is, but
good business. Let's get it done.
Where are they at? I mean, my understanding of it was that there was a deal being done at 19 million, and it's moved on from there. So where are Arsenal being asked to go to? Because if they're being asked to go to 50 million quid, tell Sheffield United to shove it, right? Because then they're taking liberties. But if maybe they're asking to go to 25 and 30 million quid, well, as much as that is still an outrageous amount of money, it is the going price for a top goalkeeper. And actually, it's not the going price for a top goalkeeper, because the going price for a top goalkeeper is 75 million quid, as been proven by Liverpool and by Chelsea.
I mean, he is a Championship player, so is he worth double?
How much did Chelsea play for Eduardo Mendy? About 25, 30 million quid, didn't they? There's your benchmark. Yeah.
I mean, when a player is wanting to go, though, Simon, I mean, obviously, Ramsdale presumably thinks, this is a great move for me. Why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't he? He's as good as said it. He's going to be playing, and he's got a great opportunity. In career terms, it's a no-brainer for him.
Yeah.
the selling club, do you not have an obligation to take his feelings into account?
I
know I'm totally asking.
Let me have a think about. Let me
guy.
have a think about that.
Yeah.
No, of course you do. You have to factor it into your thinking, insofar as you accept the fact that he doesn't want to stay on his contract. So that you say, okay, I'll accept that, and I'll accept the fact you don't want to do that. So you'll have to accept now my feelings on it. And my feelings on this are, I want to get maximum return on you. So
And
you
if
can
you were
understand
Sheffield
that too.
United,
Can't you?
would you be asking for double?
Depends how much I wanted to get a deal done. If I believe that fundamentally he was key to me getting back into the Premier League, I'd say, sod the 34 million quid. I want the 130 million quid I'm going to get if I get back to the Premier League. So you stay, son. Because you're worth more to me in goal, because I can get 130 million quid for getting back into the Premier League, and I can get another 19 million quid.
What's the biggest problem at Arsenal with Leno? What do you think? Do you think it's playing out of his feet? Because I was watching the game.
I mean, I'll let you answer that one.
I was watching the game against Brentford, and I thought he was poor. His weight of pass, his decision making on the ball, as in patterns of play, passages of play that you've worked on in training. I thought his weight of pass and you look at Edison and Alisson and top goalies. You know, the weight of pass, the range of passing, it's top draw. I don't think Leno's anywhere near
I think
that.
Leno is the least of their problems.
Yeah, but that's where it all starts, though. Because if that's not right,
Sure.
the rest of the pattern doesn't
Understood.
and you don't get out, you don't get centre half
and I
stepping
get
in.
some of all their parts, right? But they're wrong all over the pitch right now. And so to single out Leno as his weight of pass as to be a problem, and ultimately what you're suggesting is why they need another goalkeeper, right? And it's a real conundrum for them because they've got an expensive goalkeeper on one side on a big contract, and they're now going to sign another one. Ramsdale's not coming in to be number 2. So what does that say about Leno?
Well, when you're not good enough to play through Burnley, who finished 17th, as we've already said, I watched them at the Emirates last year. They weren't good enough to play through their press. And when you're not good enough to play through Brentford, who've just been promoted, what are you good enough to play through if you want to play out from the back?
I would say to you that any team that played Brentford on the first game of the season at Brentford and in a Premier League start with the atmosphere that was there, they would have had a difficult game. Now, they might have made not so much a big holics of it as Arsenal did, but I think Brentford would have given anybody a game on that particular day.
I'm not so sure, because I think if you're playing there and you think that the atmosphere is going to be mad, it's going to be a carnival atmosphere, well, you just don't play into them hands. If they've got a high press, you think, right, how can we settle this game down?
By that logic, Trev, you don't get affected by taking a penalty, do you? Everyone gets affected by circumstances.
Exactly.
You're making an excuse.
Take that circumstance out of it by going a little bit longer.
Play the game and not the occasion. But players are human beings, and you'll be the first person to run that argument in a different perspective. It'll be boys in a different perspective. In the incident of being affected by the environment, of course footballers are going to be affected by the conditions that they're playing. They haven't played in front of a crowd for 18 months. It's going to be a different ground, different perspective, and you've also got a team
Leno, though.
that's free.
I must admit, Trevor, there were moments like Pontus Jansson standing right in front of him when the second goal was scored. Get rid of him. Get him out of the way.
He wasn't strong enough.
He wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
Get him out the road.
And he's a big fellow as well.